Hello there folks, this is me, Ferengi on board. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics about spirituality, introspection, game design, different topics that people may find somewhat difficult to understand, or at least they may require a different opinion. And I prefer providing answers to different questions that may be somewhat harder to understand, or people may be not too sure, or just require an extra point, while also reminding people that hey, everything that I provide is part of my wisdom, part of my knowledge, part of the answers that I've been provided. And all these being said, this is not necessarily something to be taken as is. Take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Now I've been making a few videos on video games, and I've been presenting them probably like few other people or no one else. I haven't been seeing too many sources anyways, because I need to stay in tune with my own intuition and guidance instead of just constantly distracting myself. And the point about video games as I've been presenting them is different ways of experiencing in the name of consciousness, which is technically the reason why the facet of consciousness is now in experiencing through the prism of the body that you are in. Okay, you are the corresponding facet of consciousness. Now I don't believe in the concept of souls, because usually a soul is something that looks very simplistic, and the mechanic of a facet of consciousness is much broader. It is a personal concept that I don't necessarily seek to make well known to people, but I just want them to understand that the facet of consciousness is the multifaceted dimensional existence, okay, a projection of consciousness. And people may consider that a soul, okay, I don't mind, but on one hand I just prefer using this concept. On the other hand, I kind of have what I call a conceptual avergence, and this implies that I kind of don't feel like using concepts too much, and I kind of naturally don't like talking too much except in situations where I have something to share. And I usually share things when I feel ready, so if you ask me some questions, don't mind it if I really take some time. It may take actually a longer time, or your answer may probably in the meantime be sent by someone more appropriate. Okay, I seek to become only a channeler of the universe and no enforcer of any ideology, beliefs, or the such. Now, as I've been presenting video games, probably it's a new idea. Many people kind of demonize them, but at the same time they're a very good business model. Okay, everything in this society seems to work very well with and around confusion, because many people call to oh wait, my eyes just landed on 747, an angel number that I keep seeing. Okay, that's accolades from the universe. Right, thank you. So many people demonize video games because, well, there are multiple reasons, and to be a bit strict and direct as I am, many may do that because they kind of suck at them, and if someone is not good at something, no one else should be, and if they are, then they are better. And the ego of most, if not all people, cannot accept that, so definitely they will have to pull you down and call everything that you do one way or another a kind of heresy. Okay, they won't call you a heretic or something like that, but they will act as if you're kind of a heretic. It's like, oh my god, you're just wasting your life playing video games. Like I've been told that numerous times, and I tell people I no longer do this because I'm not gonna lower myself at other people's awareness, but it's all about this. Okay, like in between watching a movie and playing a video game, like to me they're basically almost the same. Okay, it's just a group of images that unfold in front of you. In the case of a movie, it's passive. I don't do anything, I just have to stay like a couch potato, so I actually expect the movie to be really good so that it is really worth my time, which I could have used otherwise for sharpening other skills. And if it is a game, usually I take more fun in games, because when it comes to gaming I choose like what kind of game to entertain me, and it's most likely one that I've been playing. With a movie, I can watch all sorts of ideas, write about it, but I don't know if I personally will enjoy it. Trailers with or without them, okay, the trailer's purpose is to make it good, right? Just like the games, okay, they always have that hot chick or whatever. Now, video games will also be demonized because, they're called a loss of time, but as of how I present them is how I've been guided in life to understand them, and actually they have been a bridge to me to understanding different dimensions of myself. Video games are other parallel worlds, okay? Now, one very deep aspect that people probably will understand, well, at least mentally, because that's the first level of understanding, and that's why it's actually called understanding, okay? It's just perceiving it through the mind and through what I call a simplistic programming level conditioning, okay? Like in terms of programming, you have conditionals, okay, which are a core aspect of many programming languages and types. And the condition is, does this thing actually make sense to me, okay? And sense is based on your experiences, like I have this aspect, this habit of naturally diving into all sorts of topics and branches, right? I always tend to branch things out and cut into the minutest of details, and one reason why my videos usually end up as being very lengthy. But at the same time, I also prefer being neutral. Like I'll never I can't actually say never, but I seek to just not join any side, okay? I simply wish to simply preserve my freedom and explain things and present them out of my prism, okay, without forcing people to abide to my ideas. Now, a point that goes quite deep says that as long as you experience something, that it is true, okay? You will have a lot of people in life that will say to you, you've seen a ghost, you're just imagining things. No, you've seen something, you caught a glimpse, okay? Your mind and your being for a very short while has attuned itself to other dimensions of the mind, because there are thousands of dimensions within our mind and we only use like very very little of it, because we're kind of so programmed that this reality and what we are, okay, it's the only thing, okay? Like there is really nothing else that has to do with the world, okay? Because in video games, technically, if seeing ghosts is paranoia or awkward, like seeing things in video games should also be so, okay? Because technically the video game is not real, right? It's just a bunch of pixels, okay, and a bunch of sounds mashed up together with some code, right, in a plastic box, right? Well, it has a bit of gold, it has some metal, yes, but that's technically the computer, okay? I mean, in the shortest possible, right? So it's like if you break things a lot, people will simply naturally move away, because most of them are very shallow and they're kind of their mind will be met with a lot of errors. They don't have the patience for that, right? So what I want to say is that video games are one way of experiencing consciousness, and I actually have a video about that. Is actually playing video games good or bad? I kind of dislike these kinds of questions because I cannot simply live in good or bad. Yes, I know it is a world of duality, but duality requires meaning, and meaning is a self-destruction button, because when you give meaning to something, you transform it from the multitude, almost infinite, diversity of possibilities that it can be, you just resume it to one single thing, okay? Like I prefer just going in a park, and even on the streets, like I just prefer seeing things for the way they are, okay? I don't need to call a tree because if you call it a lion instead, it's not like it's gonna change its shape, okay? It's not like if you call a building something else, it's gonna change its shape, right? So video games are a very good way of living life, but the question is, why is it that people indulge into video games so much? Well, to put it very simple, there are two types of people. Okay, there are people who just want to have some casual fun, and there are also the so-called tryhards. Okay, now tryharding in video games again is not something that I call bad, so don't feel yourself judged. If you come to my channel, I'm not a person that will judge people, because you have to pay great attention that what you put out, your words carry a very great importance, and sooner or later that importance will come back to you. So I'm not looking in any way, shape or form to judge people, pull them down through dark rituals, hidden agendas. There is no such thing as that, just wisdom to be shared. And at times me showing some things, some progress with my video game or games, because I'll probably do more than just one. And probably most likely me playing some video games for fun, like Heroes of the Storm. So about this, the point is that video games are indeed a way of relaxation. Okay, when you have tryhards, okay, the tryhards always come, there's always they always come with some sort of trauma. Okay, because when people try hard, okay, they are overdoing something, and when they are overdoing something, there is a lack of something else. Okay, it's probably it's not gonna be the most appropriate example for some, but to my opinion and wisdom, it's kind of the best, because it's something that most people kind of need to know. Okay, overdoing is exactly like masturbation. Okay, now the point about masturbation is that most sources you will find that masturbation is not bad, and again, I can't say it's good or bad. Okay, the body has its own needs. Okay, the worst case, okay, and yes, I say worst, but again, I don't judge. The worst case is that of release. Okay, when someone releases their life force, okay, because what is released through semen in men and, well, female energy, like energy of the body, okay, that is life force. Okay, it is life force from the Swadhisthana chakra, and actually Muladhara, I think it's actually Muladhara instead. Some sources say Swadhisthana, but technically a huge amount of energy is discarded from the body. Okay, that is life energy, and in return there is energy that comes, and most people simply don't understand that playing video games, masturbation, and all sorts of these ideas that are done forcefully, they are done so because there is an influence. Okay, there is what I call one of my favorite topics, parasitic entities. Okay, when people masturbate, technically there are things that cause you to masturbate. Okay, parasitic thought forms, there may be demons, there may be other forms of parasites. Okay, but masturbation also comes as a possible exchange. Okay, now how can you be sure of this? Well, masturbation can be done naturally. Okay, because in the end it is a natural aspect, but when it is done out of impulse, right, as an impulsive action, then there is something that is forcing you, and you're doing nothing else than complying. Okay, you're just accepting it. So the point about this is, when you're doing something as an impulse, something is forcing you to do that, and there is actually an exchange. Even while masturbating, you're ceding some of your energy, well, most likely in little increments, yes, but you're still giving some of your energy, while at the same time you're doing nothing else than receiving negative energy, especially if it is as an impulse. Okay, if it's in impulse action, or if it's something that I call a drug activity, right, an activity that is performed as a means of self-distraction, right, distracting self from other more important activities. And video games can also be used like this. Okay, and other activities can be, well, anything else, right, anything else you do just to distract yourself from this world. We have to also agree that this world, like this society, is very sick, and simply the nature and the people that you see around you, their nature, their specifics, there is real proof about that. Okay, yes, I know many people are still stuck in the construct called the Matrix. I'm probably gonna build some create some videos on that as well. There is actually a lot I could speak, but so far so good, and slowly and surely. Now, video games are also a good way to enjoy time. Okay, as I said, it depends. And what's the link in between tryhards and masturbation and games? Well, as I said, everything that is done out of impulse is exactly something done out of impulse. Okay, there is something that is being done, there is a contract, a subconscious contract that goes on, and those people usually are under, well, actually they cede their control to other beings, allowing those beings to experience through this world, and those beings actually manifest as what humans call the ego, because there is no such thing as the ego. Okay, what you call the ego is nothing else than a like the entirety of the voices that you have in your mind. Okay, and the mind can screw you over in thousands of ways, yes, but mindfulness is actually one of the best things to do in life. So the point about games is that, well, they are also a different reality. Okay, now we also have virtual and augmented realities, yes, but they are still a way of experiencing life. Okay, you're technically projecting yourself, okay, because that body technically becomes a projection of yourself, right? You're projecting yourself in that story, be it a single or multiplayer, and you're actually inducing some changes in there. Okay, many of your actions have consequences, just like in real life. Okay, because you're still going to impact some players, okay, one way or another. Okay, if you steal a certain boss, you're going to impact some other players, right? Now you don't have to dive into all these details, right, and think, oh my god, this is good, this is bad, like everything I'm doing is bad, because people end up in this horrible death spiral that everything they do is bad. Okay, now the point about beliefs, okay, is that we all build beliefs in our life. Okay, and belief is nothing else than an idea that you accept, and like, just accept. Okay, you don't need any proof for that. Okay, it's just an idea that you accept. You don't need any proof about that, right? Just like most people, the teacher says that, okay, it's like the law to them. The law says something, okay, they are fully compliant. The parents say something, usually this compliance is born, and like, most people are simply fully compliant. And compliance is also another way that depicts parasitic presence. Okay, because people are naturally, or humans, just like animals, should always vow for their rights, right? But when people are compliant, they are simply ceding their power to all sorts of parasites. Okay, and this matrix is simply built on parasites that have learned, okay, and taught themselves how to manipulate humans, and use humans, because, well, and not only humans, like even animals and literally most living beings, because we are, and every other source of existence, or most other sources of existence, are infinite energy batteries, right, that they can simply vampirize on, because parasites are only about survival, right? They cannot think beyond survival, because to be a parasite means that you're only survival vibration. There is no greater vibration, because you're no longer a parasite, right? And that's also the vibration of most couples, okay, that live in codependency, because codependency is the first form of love, in a way, and, well, it's a very low vibrational one, and again, it's a vibration of survival, because even if you don't survive off of the other person, you still have, again, beliefs that you will survive based off of that person, but probably you just need some emotional support from that person. It's not necessarily money and food or shelter or something like that, right? But codependency exists as long as the persons agree that, at least subconsciously, but they also agree consciously, but they wouldn't admit it, they live together even if they're repulsive, rejective one of the other, right? But they still live together because they believe there is no other way around. Okay, this is again something a bit problematic, but it's not necessarily the end of the world. Okay, each facet of consciousness has to experience in the name of consciousness, and again, there are facets who are more advanced, and there are ones who are still learning. Okay, so again, it is all about beliefs. Society and the matrix just work based on your beliefs, and especially on your emotions. Okay, so the reason why video games are so played is because people are becoming more and more conscious. Okay, people are becoming more and more conscious of the wounds in the world, but unfortunately their emotional part is again more wounded, and they only do more damage to themselves, because the problem is this. Okay, they create a lot of trauma to themselves, right? Because people who are waking up are finally waking up from the drone level of consciousness to that of the artist. Okay, but the artist, they gain access to whole new ranges of consciousness, okay, and new wisdom, okay, new levels of perception, and they also gain access to their emotions. They are finally capable of understanding their emotions, while drones simply disregard them fully. There is technically no emotion in them. I mean, they're not conscious of those because everything has emotion, because emotion is energy in motion, right? So yes, I know English is an occult language. There are a lot of constructs, okay, meaning structures. Well, this is my personal definition for a construct. It is a structure that is designed for the future. It is not designed to help you necessarily now. It is designed to have a better purpose in the future, because you have to understand the concept of the matrix is nothing else than an exploitation of all possible flaws, let's say, of the human mind. Because consciousness only wants to experience, and it always requires entities that will be in all possible sides so that experience can be full. Imagine it like in terms of video games, because this life is also a video game, okay? And it is exactly like that. And well, if you have enough power and understanding of how this complex system works, you can actually live a long time, and you can actually reincarnate yourself in the same shape or form. But there have been only a few humans that have achieved something like that. And no, you don't achieve that through the low vibration of survival, or mad thoughts towards immortality or things like that, okay? And this reincarnation in the same shape or form is only performed to achieve other missions, okay? It's not to simply die and then you're instantly reincarnated so that you just live forever, okay? So moving even further, life is just like a video game, okay? Like, yes, I know there is no safe game, but well, technically there is, because there are checkpoints in life. As of what I've been presenting in different videos, I present life as cycles. And when you wake up, you're technically reborn, and when you go to bed, you technically die, okay? It is not a fully fledged death, but I want you to understand, again, don't take it fully for granted, but death is not something that happens in the last second, okay? It's an ongoing process that starts with the beginning of your life, okay? There is technically no such thing as death, okay? Death was just built by religions and the such to, have people live in fear and be easier to control. If life and death actually are two different processes, but at the same time, even if they go in parallel, they're technically at the highest levels of existence, they are basically the same thing, okay? There is kind of no such thing as death. There is only the blooming of life, and the blooming of life occurs through the expansion of consciousness, okay? Imagine consciousness as the code, okay? Because this life is technically a video game. The Matrix, again, is a video game, okay? The Matrix was designed, imagine like a developer, okay? They want to create a video game, and they kind of think like me. They wanted to make it as complex and intricate as possible, with as many RNGs as possible, right? Random number generators, okay? And as much aversion towards you once you incarnate yourself, in the skin of the playable character, right? And the point is, it's like one of those somewhat, you can take consciousness as somewhat of a hardcore player, okay? They're not interested in just finishing the story and living the story just like I usually do in games. They just want it whole, okay? Like, give me all the corners, give me like literally everything, okay? That's why life in here is so intricate, it's so complex. And you have to agree, even in the designing of a bacteria, there's so much intelligence that goes on. Think a bit, it's an entity that is 1,000 times smaller than our human body cells, right? And it can actually play with a few hundred, let's say, let's minimize it, and let's say a few dozen substances, okay? It actually can play with like even a few hundred, I think, depending on species again. But they're like technically factories and laboratories, okay? There's a lot of intelligence that goes around, okay? And beliefs and video games go very well together, because the power of belief lies beyond the megastructure of consumerism and the economy. And you have to understand that video games sell, and most importantly, stories sell, right? It's a part of our empathy to empathize with other people, to share stories and understand stories, right? Especially back then in the times, right, when there were the hunts, people would gather around fires, and fathers would pass on knowledge and stories, because it's in our human mind to naturally tend towards stories. Okay, if you want people to learn something, it's much easier to have people learn something through the prism of a story, because there's more connection rather than the uh, cold approach that schools take. For example, they just give you some books, and like literally nothing is enchanting. There is no such thing as curiosity triggers, right? It's just learn this and it really doesn't matter. Okay, like it's not that it's gonna serve you anyway. Like I've been through 12 years of prison, like school, and like after I've finished the national exams, like 3 weeks later I couldn't remember anything about school. Like that's how my mind works. Everything that I don't need, it's like fully discarded. Okay, well, it still remains in the black box of existence, right, your subconscious mind, but come again, it's no longer in my conscious reach, because everything that doesn't serve me doesn't have much place in my mind, except situations in which they become a bit parasitic, and then, well, there may be a few wars. Now, regarding beliefs, as I said, they are nothing else than a set of acceptances, okay? Acquiescence, probably, a synonym that says, okay, I'm gonna accept this thing without fighting, and that's it, okay? Now, the point about this is very simple. Okay. Ah, come on, really, now I have to wait a minute. Okay, folks, I'm back. My grandmother is a bit problematic with her health, and someone was calling, and apparently she couldn't answer, so I had to answer the phone. There is no problem in this. Yes, you may actually find some of these, interruptions, I could say. Just skip, like 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, because I don't know how long I can actually be, back. Like if it's more than 2 or 3 minutes, I don't, well, I might actually cut the video. Okay. So as I was saying, belief is the fundamental of selling, because basically people sell emotions, okay, not products. Okay, you're not buying a product, you're buying yourself, you're buying your way out of something. Okay, when you buy something, you imagine that you're gonna solve some problems. Okay, when you buy a video game and you plunge into it, you're just imagining before that what you can actually experience, right? Even if at times it becomes so fast you're not even conscious of that, it's still a belief, right? And one reason why many people indulge in video games, besides distraction and such, is that the stories that are in a video game, okay, are much more credible. Okay, they are much more bound by emotion, right, than the ones in your surrounding world, right? Like at news, in the news forecasts, it's just gonna be doom and gloom. Like most people are just gonna get, they're just getting pissed. by that. Your parents, your relatives most likely have some of those shallow stories that you've probably been hearing ever since you were young, like in my situation. And it's like when each and every day the only thing they can do is that again and again and again. Is like, dude, like, screw it, okay? Like, I'm no longer interested in that, okay? Like, I've won my peace of mind, okay? You can speak as much as you want, it's gonna stay for you, okay? So video games have always been, at times deviously been using this, but again, I present them as a wonderful way of experiencing in the name of consciousness. Yet again, everything that is done more than needed, okay, can actually be a bit harmful, okay? So all this being said, the video game is not necessarily bad, okay? Beliefs, however, the way you use them, they will actually shape your world more or less. So it can actually end as a bit of a problem, because based on your beliefs your reality is shaped, and you're also, the people you're gonna meet are gonna be the same, because that's how the matrix works, okay? The matrix is purpose as a meta spiritual process, okay? It's not necessarily that of control, okay? Yes, there are a lot of beings who seek control over everything, but the purpose of that is to allow people, even actually kind of force them, okay, to become more self-aware and more conscious, okay, to become capable of penetrating some of their deepest cores, okay? And with this Kant virus, pandemic, okay, because it's actually always been a plan, right? Not just a pandemic, a plandemic, okay, as Ralph Smart presents it. People were forced into houses for a long while, and many people actually started waking up, because finally, no longer being fully distracted, people started asking themselves questions. It's like, how come? And even I, like, instantly started asking questions. It's like, how come now, like, everything was normal, one hour later everyone was wearing face masks on the street? It's like, it's like exactly like in a video game, right? And again, it takes back to my previous video that I made on this, like, so many people, and other videos that I've presenting, most of the masses, they are just entities controlling people, okay, or different entities that, they embody themselves into, human bodies, and they parasite themselves, and they just mock humanity, by ruling physical bodies. They exact them to pains, and all sorts of emotional suffering and the such. They don't know how to use the body, right? But as long as it is pain, it's feeding them, because they're parasites, okay? And the problem is their time is kind of up, because the planetary shifting to a higher level of consciousness will render these beings kind of incompatible with us, because humans, like all other beings on this planet, will keep shifting towards 5D. So all these parasites will will kind of have to shift away from us, because we'll no longer be vibrating at their low frequencies. Will no longer, well, it's still gonna take some generations most likely, but if it happens in our lifetime, and you think you've been seeing all the possible doom and gloom in video games, wait till you finally see all the parasites suddenly vanish from this world, because suddenly the world is no longer compatible with them, right? And suddenly all these bodies that are controlled by parasites, okay, they suddenly are free, and they wake up to a world that they don't understand. Oh, you have to imagine the faces of that, and you actually have to imagine how fun that can be, or how bad theoretically. But again, I just prefer being a spectator in life, and whatever comes, I just prefer analyzing from afar or from up close. So belief is something that guides us into a lot of things, and our belief can also be shaped by our guidance, right? The higher realms, right? Just like it's been working in many situations in my case. I can actually go on and on. So all that I wanted to say is that video games are a nice way to experience life, and beliefs can actually influence you towards that or away from them. When something is no longer useful in your life, you're naturally gonna stray away from that. Just remember, everything that you do as an impulse is most likely something parasitic in a way, because you're running away from something. And when you're overdoing something, it means you're technically having a lack of something and you want to simply recuperate on that, okay? That's the same thing that I initially started with masturbation and release. When release occurs, one of the chakras' energies is somewhat depleted, so it actually forces the other chakras to overload a bit, and they have to keep up, right? They have to actually work for the seventh one, which is now suddenly drained, right? And it happened in my case. I heard from one of the gurus speaking. He said that when the Muladhara releases, okay, through release, right? All that energy goes away and it forces the Kundalini to awaken. And as it goes, it forces energy upwards, right? And that kind of explains why, in my case, I could actually see auras, right, after I would release. So, yeah. Video games have a lot of parasites in them as well, because don't forget, your mind will also be filled by parasites who are always planning, and they're doing literally everything because they can't sleep. They can't generate energy for themselves, so they can't sleep, and also they cannot allow themselves to do that because, well, they actually have to get their energy from somewhere, okay? So they actually have to always make plans, and like slowly and surely guide you towards the other incompatible people, so that you are going to have a miserable life so that they can be fed, right? So in video games as well, okay, you will naturally be sent towards what I call the video game prisons, right? Those places where people go and they just rage a lot, and everything that they happen to do is bad. They're never good enough, and what goes alike comes alike. So all this being said, hopefully I just sparked your curiosity a bit more. Feel free to share, feel free to like and subscribe if interested. Feel free to also guide people towards my channel if you want to help people raising awareness and consciousness together. All this being said, you are loved and appreciated. Take care of yourself and the others, right? Other people around you. You are loved and appreciated as usual. Never forget, even if you may sound or feel lonely, there is always help around you. I'm starting to feel this and tune into this more and more. Although I still don't find any trouble when it comes to loneliness, and well, I don't want to prolong this video much more. So take care, have fun, become more introspective, and you will see that the truths that you are looking for are also to be found within you. Most likely you will be more successful to find them within you. All these being said, you are loved and appreciated. Again, take care, have an awesome day. Ferenc Board signing out.